All right, this is my showcase for the HW2 Code. Starting off is the VR pawn. I used a lot of the code from the VR template. Going into some of the functions, whenever the player presses a trigger, it activates this event. This is in a couple of different components, like one of these cubes here. So when the player is holding this cube and they press the trigger, it will toggle the gravity. This was just used for one of the puzzles, but you can also use it to just throw objects around in no gravity. Next up is the menu. When the player presses this menu button, it will open this menu right here. And this is how you can change the controls. So um, first off, the default controls, the left joystick, if you move that left to right, you will snap um, in that direction. The right controls the movement. Movement hand toggles this, so instead of left being view and right being move, it changes it so left is move and right is view. View type by default is snapping, but if you select this, it will change it to smooth. Excuse me, sorry. Um, Smooth is just a standard rotation, similar to other video games. When you hold the stick down, you'll just continuously pan in that direction. Movement type by default is a teleport. So if you move that joystick forward, it will paint a target, and then when you release, you will be teleported there. And then the other option is just a simple walking function. Next up is the viewing controls. The way I was able to manage the player's preferences was when the player selects one of these widgets, it changes a boolean on the player character, which are these three booleans right here. So whichever hand they prefer, viewing and moving options, the snap and smooth, the teleport and walk. Um, Up here we have the viewing section. So we have two branches right here, basically determining which the player hand or sorry, which hand the player is using to view, and then checking to see what view setting they have. So if they selected the option, you will change to smooth, which is just a very simple rotation function. The snapping is used from the template. So if the player leaves it default or changes it back, it will go into the default snap turn. And same thing for the other hand. The walking function was provided by Rachel Masters on Teams. Um, so I will not be covering that. But we do use some of the similar concepts from the last one, checking to see if the hand or which hand the player is using for moving. And based off of that, then checking to see if the player is walking forward, or sorry, using walking or using teleport. Walking will go to this function up here, and teleport will go to the default function down here. And then I believe this is the same thing, but for the other hand. All right. Next up, we can talk about some of the actors in here in the level. So there's a couple of different movable components. Um, all of them use basically the same code as those cubes I showed. So these cubes, if you hold them, press the trigger, disable gravity. Same for these books here. Same for these puzzle pieces right here. And the cubes are hidden back there. Going into some of the puzzles, go into puzzle one first. Um, it is a little bit messy. I do apologize, but the player, um, let's see. So, sorry, I guess I could show it off in 3D first. So this is the first puzzle. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, but a little less or a little more forgiving. The player has to match up this to form a sentence. Um, and then once they do that, it will reveal a answer cube. Looking at it, these are all of the puzzle pieces, and I added collision boxes on top of that. So when the proper piece is placed in one of these collision boxes, um, it will detect that. It is a little bit messy. I do apologize, but um, this calls a function on these cubes. I'll open that up. Um, which is just checking to see if the rotation is correct. So all of the puzzle pieces need to be facing a certain way, and this just checks that. And if if the piece is facing the right way, it will return true. It does that for all of them, checking to make sure all of the pieces are in the right orientation. And then it sets a boolean on the player to true, just to keep track of what puzzles have been completed. And then it will destroy one of the covers. So there's a cover right here. It will destroy that once the puzzle is complete, revealing a answer cube. And then I had to disable the tick since we used an event tick here to constantly check to see if these were overlapping all at the same time. Um, it was giving errors if I didn't have this. Next up, we can talk about the second puzzle. There's a little bit of a clue in the first puzzle, but the player needs to take this first book right here and put it in one of these slots on this impromptu bookshelf. Um, I believe the first one is many. Um, so looking back at the code, um, we have all of the rendered text as well as two collision boxes. This one for the puzzle, this one for the conclusion. Let's see. In here, first one is let's see. This is the box, or the box for the first puzzle, and this is the first book. So when the player overlaps the book with that box, we'll go into this branch right here, which we will set another check or another boolean to true, just again to show progress. And then it will destroy the book and it will destroy a cover for the next clue, similar to the last puzzle. And since it's destroyed, when it ticks again, it will check for the final portion, which I can cover right now. Here, we check to see if the player has completed all three of the puzzles. And once that's true, we'll go into here. Once the player has completed all three of the puzzles, they can access the final puzzle, which is the Grand Escape. And there's a couple of clues for that for the player, but when the player takes the other book and puts it against the right word, we will destroy the bookshelf and we'll destroy the book and we'll disable the tick so that it doesn't keep going and run into errors, and then the player can escape. The last puzzle was very similar or very simple. Under one of the cubes is a key. So the player is supposed to move the block around, and then they'll spot a key, and then they can use that key to unlock this box. And once this box is unlocked, it will unlock the final box. And these are just more or less used to give the player a hint. They don't provide much code. I believe that was everything. Thank you for watching.